How can she be in two places at once? It doesn't make sense to me. So now we're going to start your engines and all of that car puns that I'm going to try and make during this video. In this, I'm going to be going over the first out of the two, which is kind of weird. They usually do more than 2 decks when it comes to the new Wacky Races kind of Magic the Gathering set. But before I go any further, a word from my sponsors, which is me and my small little Etsy shop, where I make t-shirts and hoodies in different colours and sizes for people to enjoy. And again, it's one of those things where it helps me out if you buy something nice for yourself. When it comes to these, they're designs that I've made that I think would be funny. I actually have a new one coming out, and I also just previously had a new one out where it's I apologise for the stuff I said after you counterspelled me, but I do think that this is a good kind of thing to do, and I do like it because it works out for both of us. You get something nice, and then I'm also then able to get stuff for the channel like lighting and more better effects and stuff like that. So if you like me and what I do, please go buy yourself something nice, and also remember to like and subscribe and share to your friends. In this video, I'll be going over the deck called Living Energy. I will be going over the commander, sub-commander, and then going over the main parts of the deck, not the full thing. If you want to see the full thing, there'll be a link down below. Give my thoughts and opinions on this deck as a whole, comparing it to pretty much other decks we have seen in previous videos. So if you're not sure if you want to buy this deck or not, or just want to help and support the channel, please, again, sit down, relax, and enjoy, and let's start your engines. When it comes to the commander of this deck, it is a character we've seen over the years. They all used to be a planeswalker and now have lost their spark due to the big massive thing. When it comes to this, there are other planeswalkers in this and other things that are not planeswalkers anymore. So if you have not seen the commander is Saheeli, Radiant Creator. For 1 green, blue, and a red, you get a legendary creature, Human Artificer, that is a mythic. Whenever you cast an Artificer or Artifact spell, you gain an energy counter. At the beginning of combat on your turn, you may pay 3 energy counter. When you do, create a token that's a copy of target permanent you control, except for it's a 5/5 artifact creature in addition to its other types and has haste. Sacrifice it at the beginning of the next end step, and it's a 4/4. So pretty much you need artificers and artifacts for this deck. This is going to be the main priority. So I do think just straight off this commander, it is going to be very creature and artifact heavy. Now when it comes to this, 4 mana for a 4/4 is okay with no keywords, but its ability is where you need to focus on. I do like its ability that you get energy. I'm not a big energy fan, but I'm going to try my best not to be biased. However, turning an artifact into a 5/5 creature for 3 energy is quite good. My main problem is sacrificing it. Personally, if I was to build this deck, I would do it if I had to, but put in a lot of graveyard recursion stuff to be able to replay artifacts, or because there's green, kind of save up all the energy, play a Cradle Hoof, then all my soul rings and arcade signets and other kind of artifacts that are just sitting there, maybe treasures, then use all my energy to turn them into creatures, and then that's when I would play Cradle Hoof and win that way. That was how I would personally build it. But with our wizards and stuff like that, I don't think they will be doing it that way, especially because there is a sub-commander. And if you don't know the sub-commander of the deck, it is Pir Narel, Chief Mechanic, for a green, blue, and a red. You get a legendary creature, Human Artificer, that is a mythic. Whenever one of the artifacts creatures you control deal combat damage to a player, you gain 2 energy counters. At the beginning of your end step, you may pay 1 or more energy. If you do, create a XX colorless vehicle artifact token named Naria's Aetherjet with flying and crew 2, where X is the amount of energy spent this way, and it's a 2/4. So usually when it comes to this, I usually actually prefer the sub-commander of the commander, but this time I actually prefer the commander of the sub-commander. Getting an XX creature is quite good, especially since it seems to be easy enough to do. However, it comes at the end step, so it's kind of sitting there for 3 people's turn on an average game of commander, and then you have to crew to it. It does have flying, and it is a free creature / blocker, but it seems to be you're more aiming for maybe early game a few little weak ones, but then the big one with the flying thing somehow with blue make it unblockable, do a lot of damage. There's different ways to play both of these. This is just how I would play it if I had to. When it comes to the commander and sub-commander, when it comes to the deck so far, I'm not the biggest fan, but again, I'm kind of a little bit biased. Neither are my playstyle, and also I'm not a big fan of vehicles or energy. So again, this is more of a I tried or got an attempt or something like that. So even though there are loads of planeswalkers that have lost their spark, they are now adding planeswalkers into more decks. So it's good that in this deck you get a planeswalker. Which is weird because the planeswalker of this deck is the Healy Supreme Artificer. So this is weird to me. I know it's a game and all of that, but having the card of her with her spark and then having her as a commander is kind of weird, especially because there are like 3 in the top of my head other planeswalker cards with her that are better. In my opinion, you're getting the worse of one. I do think that having a planeswalker card would be good, but to be honest, I think something like any RAL would have been better to kind of more show a kind of more story narrative. I know RAL's not in the story itself, but when it comes to a deck having like them together, I just find it weird. And I know like I've seen people that have like every single Sandra in a deck and stuff like that, so it's fine, but I just was like, when I seen her as a planeswalker in the deck, I was kind of like, huh, that's weird. But whatever. So when it comes to planeswalker, again, I would personally pick a better version of the cards or a RAL or something along the lines of that. But again, that is just my thoughts and opinions. Now let's head on to the creatures. When it comes to the creatures in this deck, there is 28 in total. I won't be going over all of them, but I'll be going over like the rares or kind of the key points what I think of the deck is. And when it comes to this, there are Territorial Aetherkite, Pima Trailblazer, Rampaging Aetherhood, Stridehanger Automation, Druid of Proficication, Duplicant, Aether Squall Agent, Aethertide Whale, Seer Master Thopterist, Combustible Gearhulk, Lightning Runner, Pia and Kira Narelle, Aetherwind Basker, Architect of the Untamed, Elder Gargaroth, and Triplicate Titan. Not gonna lie, and this is more of I've been playing Magic the Gathering for a very long time. Most of these cards are in most decks that have these colours, and plus they're in a lot of sets and reprints and stuff like that. So to be honest, looking at this deck, between me and I would say even 2 of my friends, I do have like a play group of, we'll say 8, even 2 of them, if I got this deck list, I could possibly just go, cool, I'm gonna make it with my like res and mythics and all of that collection, and yours. All the cards are like super cheap. There's nothing really like fancy in this deck when it comes to creatures so far, and to be honest, it is a deck for kind of really easy to build. Most of these decks I see, I would have majority of the cards and would be able to get majority of them, but this seems to be the first deck I've seen that I'm able to possibly just get the entire deck list of creatures, and a lot of these are kind of not overly reprinted, but there's a lot of them, and nearly every single player I've met has had them, have them, or knows someone that has like 3 to 5 to 8 copies. So when it comes to this, the creature thing, but this is more of a I've been playing for a long time. If it's a new player, I can see it being quite good. There is a lot of well-known cards and well-known creatures that they're able to learn the game better and faster if they're a brand new player. So next we are going on to the spells of the deck. When it comes to the spells, there is 11 in total, and here some are on screen. Chain Reaction, Convocation Coup, One with the Machine, Blasphemous Act, Chaos Warp, Disallow. Seeing the commander and sub-commander, I was like the spells and lands and enchantments are going to be the weakest point of this deck, but to be honest, I'm pretty sure, and correct me if I'm wrong, there might actually be an energy sorcery spell, especially with the Fallout deck. I do think that a lot of these cards, or majority of them, are kind of, if pretty much what I'm seeing whenever a set comes out, if they're like, here is a white pip in it, I'm like, Suntime's gonna be in it. Here is a red pip in it, I'm like, Blasphemous Act or Chaos Warp's gonna be in it. It seems to be, before the deck's even out, they'll just show the box with the pips in it. I could make a guess on majority of the cards. So it's kind of like a thing where it's, I know they're famous and well-known and powerful cards that everyone has, but when it comes to a deck about energy, seeing another Blasphemous Act is weird to me. Seeing another Chaos Warp is kind of weird to me. It just seems to be or personally, when they're building a deck, they have a list of cards that just goes in every single or majority of them. I would rather this being a live and energy deck and having like more energy cards or something that works along them lines. Chain reaction is perfect for this deck, especially because of the race, and it shows like the cards hitting each other and then making a chain reaction against stuff. So like something that is also a red damage spell that is not blasphemous act, even if it was a weaker version, it's more just good to see different variations instead of the same old thing. And then next we're going on to enchantments. When it comes to enchantments, there is 2 in total, so I'm just going to show both, and they are Thopter Spy Network, Era of Innovation. So again, this is more of a, I have seen many times before, this seems to be a artifact heavy, token heavy Thopter deck. So again, it's one of those cards that if someone said to me without a deck going, I want to build a Thopter deck, I would probably say throw in Thopter Spy Network. There is many different variations of cards that would also be like throw in. This is more of a, I know the enchantments won't be weakest. To be honest, when I originally thought this, I thought there'll be like 2, maybe 4, and I was correct on the 2. Again, I know that the decks are a certain price and they can't put in the best cards or the most valuable cards. So this is more of a, yeah, makes sense to me. Not happy, not disappointed. It's just kind of the obvious choice. Next, we're on to the next big one, which is artifacts. When it comes to this, there is 20 in total. Again, there'll be the Soul Ring and Arcane Signet, but there will be other artifacts just like Adaptive Omni Tool, Aetherflux Conduct, Aetherflux Amplifier, Cryonic Lantern, Midnight Clock, Bootlegger's Stash, Aetherwork Marvel, Conjurer's Closet, Cultivation Caverns, Paraharmonicon, Retrofitted Foundry. Now this is exactly what I'm on about when it comes to this. This has variations of stuff, some cards that I actually go, that actually is good in and don't see all the time. Stuff like Bootlegger's Stash is a card I absolutely love, especially in Chatterfang. I have the old art in my Chatterfang deck. I absolutely love that that card is in it. And this is a card that I would not have thought of. This is a card that I'm like, that is actually good. Every time you like tap land, you're able to get an additional artifact and turn into a 5/5. It makes perfect sense. But it's not in every single artifact deck that has green in it. Stuff like Paraharmonicon, again, was in the Fallout decks, but again, a good choice for this. This is what I'm saying when it comes to the rest of them. The rest are too obvious. They're too easy to guess what card's going to be in it. This actually artifact list is a good thing. Now again, not perfect, but I'm not aiming for perfect. Midnight Clock is a very weak card and a card that I would not have think of put into it, but I'm also not complaining that it's in there. And now the biggest problem when it comes to these decks, lands. Now in fairness to them, I will give them the benefit of the doubt. Making a land deck and a good deck for the price they're doing it is very difficult. But you get lands just like Academy Ruins, Frostboil Snarl, Hinterland Harbour, Overflown Bastion, Rootbound Crag, Sulphur Falls, Treasure Vault, Vine Glimmer Snarl. When it comes to these lands, again, I know it's hard to make perfect between the kind of making the deck worthy, making the lands worthy, because majority of the money goes in lands, and also making it accessible for newer players, plus making older players happy. They do have a hard time kind of balancing all 4, and I don't think anyone could actually do it perfectly, because even if I said take out, we'll say this, that or the other, and put in these lands, people will be like, but it's now too pricey for it and stuff like that. To be honest, I have seen a few times them putting in filter lands, and filter lands I do think is a type of land that people, every player, even new players, should get access to because they are really good. Now the Snarls are very good lands, I'm always happy to see them. The damage lands I'm a bit with, where it's not the shock or damage lands, I mean the ones that you pay 1 to get 2 colours or something like that. Not biggest fan of them, but again, do see why they're in there. Lands are very difficult when it comes to this, but again, I do think when it comes to these decks, in every single one of my videos, I just go, the lands are the weakest point. Now my thoughts on this entire deck. 1, the Commander and Sub-Commander are okay, not given out. They're like, not last year with a few of the decks, they were like brand new, like weird mechanics and stuff like that I enjoyed. This is just a, okay, it's not good, not bad in my opinion. I would play it and not complain it being played. Having 2 decks is also weird because we've had previous decks with 4 mainly would be the thing, so I assumed 4 actually originally. I have seen a lot of people talking about how Magic is going down, and I am one of those people that agree. And seeing that, I do think the creativity of decks is kind of going down, but it could also be I've been playing for years, so kind of it's harder to impress me because I've seen a lot more before. So again, it is hard to say. I do think this is, for new players, a good way to get artifacts and learn how they work, because it is a different playstyle than most. I do think it is quite a good deck, probably a bit pricey if decks are still worth like the 80 range. I don't know the price anymore, but if the decks, it is a good kind of beginner deck. If you're an older player and you have majority of the cards, I would just say ask your friends, go to your local OGS and just make the deck or a variant of the deck yourself and stuff like that. I do think this is perfect for new players. If you're playing, we'll say, over 3 years, I personally, unless you want the deck, I would just say kind of give it a step back and just buy the commander or sub-commander, whichever one you want to use, or find a Izzet or 3-color, 4-color deck and make it somewhat the same using a chunk of these cards. So overall, if I had to grade it, I'll probably give it, we'll say, a 6.6. So when it comes to this, I would love to hear your thoughts and opinions on the deck, if there's any cards you would have added, or if you have any decks similar to this that I would like to see, or you think I would like to see, or any card suggestions you would like. If you bought the deck and wanted to put other cards in, what cards would you put in? Let me know in the comments down below. While you're there, remember to like and subscribe and stuff like that. And as always, I have last week's Magic the Gathering video here, a playlist with all the Magic the Gathering Is It Worth It-esque videos here, and a subscribe button here, and I will see you all in the next video.